Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can have everybody's attention, please. I'm going to let you know where we're at. That way we'll understand what's going on. The Senate has passed the ARPA bill out of the Senate. There is a couple of amendments. Chairman Reynolds has talked to me about it. He feels comfortable with it. We certainly are happy to have any conversation. I know he is, but I think everything, from what I understand, one of them really didn't do much at all, didn't do anything is what I've been told. But he'll explain those. We hadn't had it transmitted yet, so we hadn't gotten the basket. As soon as we get it in the basket, we'll start that conversation. In the meantime, I would like to have Chairman Lovern to come up, and he wants to talk to you just a little bit about how to get a bill on the rules and what we're doing. They've got a new program that they're working with too, and they've done an outstanding job getting that ready and going. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, just wanted to have a quick overview with the rules and committee process for making it to the calendar for bills that have passed out of committee. We've been existing under the regular order calendar through the special, but as we go back into the regular session, we will quickly be in a point for a special order calendar. And for a review for returning members and just a go through for our new members that be added for a bill once it's passed out of committee, for it to be added to the pick list for the Rules Committee to consider, you must come see Tara in my office and fill out a blue form for the House bill. And it has instructions in there and information needed with a bill number, your name, and it also has the members of the Rules Committee on there. And then if you are helping to carry a Senate bill, then there's a green form that has the Senate bill and the sponsor information on there as well. Tara in our office will be receiving these, and if I do not have a form from you, then don't expect the bill to be considered on that list, because I don't want to move forward with your legislation without your permission. So that's the reason for this organizational point. Many of you returning, is the process hasn't changed. The color of the paper may have just changed. So just look on the form. If you have any need or assistance, please reach out to my office if we can help in any way. And if it's a bill that may be a passionate bill with some understanding that needs to be clarified, please make an appointment with me. I'm available anytime with open door to address you and help you with your legislation. So with that, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Chairman, is it okay if I ask the chairman a couple of questions about the rules process?
Yes, sir.
I was trying to get some clarity on something because it seems to be some changes this session compared to the way things were. Received a letter this morning, and it was my understanding that, well, maybe I was just assuming that this letter was for particular committees, but it appears to be something that's kind of going across the board for different committees when it concerns amendments in committee. Can you give me an idea of what's going on and why we took this angle? Because it seems like this is going to put us in a box where, you know, sometimes you can be in a committee meeting and you can see an error and it's something that you could fix right there. But putting time frames on when we're allowed to bring amendments for a committee, saying that we can't take any written amendments in committee, can you give me an idea of where that came from?
Well, Mr. Bracy, I'm not sure what letter or what source you're speaking of. I haven't had a chance to get back to that.
that letter was from boards and commissions, and it's also a similar letter from county and municipal government. So it gives me the impression that other committees are sending out similar letters.
Well, each committee may have certain standards that they're holding for their committee operations, but as far as your amendments process from the overall rules change, the only change you'll see is when amendments are added in committee, that committee passed bill will come to the floor as an engrossed substitute with those amendments added. And with those amendments added, it'll provide clarity with our new system where you'll have a bill oftentimes before where you'd be on the floor ready for debate. You'd have multiple amendments and you don't know exactly how those plug in and change the legislation. And the hope is to add clarity to where you see in the system where those bills interact with the text of the bill and how it may change the intent of that legislation. So hopefully it provides more transparency, more clarity. But if you do detect a problem in committee, work with your chairman of those committees to make the amendments needed, work with their process. But if a bill comes out of committee and you have a problem with something or something you see needs to be changed, you still have that right and opportunity when we get to the floor. That has not changed.
Right, and I understand we have that opportunity when we get to the floor, but so the way this process works, so often a person, you can drop a bill today and chances, let's just go through the fast track bill process. I drop a bill today. When will the bill have the first opportunity to be in committee? Tomorrow, right?
As early as tomorrow.
As early as tomorrow. So when that happens, how is it that we have a rule that says if you plan to bring an amendment, it must be prepared by LSA and given to our clerk 24 hours prior to the meeting? The 24 hours prior to the meeting, you could drop a bill today and it could be in committee tomorrow, which kills the 24-hour window of being able to get an amendment prepared for consideration in the committee. So how is it that we are circumventing, we're creating policies that directly go against the structure of the rules of the House? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
So how do we explain that? And I know you didn't come up with this, but
well, I understand your question. The whole purpose, we have a new system that all the clerks are learning, all the members will use. It may not look different from the front, but behind the scenes, there's an entire system that with our bill process to help with efficiencies with the bill flow. And as we move forward that, it may not be as quickly to generate the computer system for the amendment and also to help with understanding of the amendments to help you. If you have an issue that you're trying to have amended, it's not a good point for your members of that committee to show up on that day with it without letting people know. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes you find things at the last minute. But I think maybe, I'm not sure what the chairwoman was asking for in that, but she
well, it seemed to be exactly like a photocopy of a previous committee. So I'm not saying that this is specific for this committee, because we've seen this coming from other committees, which brings some level of concern for me. You know, a lot of times we'll come into session and we would not know what's on the Wednesday's agenda for committee until we walk out and get a strip out of our mailbox, right?
Sure.
Those are the 24-hour windows that I'm talking about. Now, they're saying, oh, we're going to have this stuff prepared for you on Friday. That hadn't happened. I've never seen that happen before, where we've had the bills that we're going to have in committee next week on Friday without it at least changing. You may have it, but it's going to be updated. And if it's updated, that means that we can't consider amending the legislation that's in the committee because of some rules, not even rules, policy changes, or because somebody feel like it. Like it's not, you see what I'm saying?
Well, I see what you're saying, Mr. Bracy, and I fully understand your concern. But what I tell people is when a bill is filed, go ahead and start preparing for your debate, your counter, whatever you need for that, because it could come forward at any time.
And I understand that, but
with
you're in a very unique position because as the rules chairman, you're probably one of the few people that will at least read the synopsis or something on just about every bill that's filed. That's kind of like your thing, right? Every House member can't read 150 bills that's filed.
Sure.
Like they have to kind of be specific towards things, areas of importance, things that may be coming up, things that may be coming up in their committees. They have to kind of channel in because they just don't have that type of time. People can't read every single, because a lot of that legislation is not even going to come up.
Well,
So how could you prepare an amendment for some legislation that you have no idea if it's going to even come up or not, when you should be able to focus on legislation that can possibly come up? But it's like it's taking away the opportunity. I just don't know the reasoning, right? That's what I try to figure out, because if you look at the committees are stacked 3-1. So I'm thinking it can't be because of my side that you came up with the rule, because you already got all the votes that you need. So I'm just wondering what's happening that makes it where we can't express our districts, our communities by saying these bills need to take an amendment. Now, like I know, you could be in committee and you could be reading a bill and it could be typos in the bill. It could be things that you just strike through the bill, pass the amendment, the bill come out clean to the floor. But now it's saying we can't even do that. We can't make corrections. That's what we do. We make policy, we make laws, we make corrections, we make amendments, but now we can't make the amendment.
if I may answer a couple of your
Yes, sir.
questions. First of all, you said a committee wouldn't have everything typically together. I've been very fortunate to serve on some committees where if you didn't have the information to them by the time they post the agenda, it's not going to make the agenda for next week. And what that chairperson is trying to do is make sure there's an organized gathering of information so that committee can make a clear understanding and clear recognition and clear vote.
I didn't understand
on
the
that
first thing you
legislation.
said. Can you repeat the first thing for me?
Sure.
You mentioned about a committee being organized.
Sure, I've served on committees where if it's very organized chairpersons and clerks to make sure that most information to those members are. I took a quick look at that letter that I didn't receive, but I looked at. It looks like the chairperson is trying to do the same thing, try to get organized, to get as much information forward.
Right.
But it's up to us as members to work with that chairperson to, if things come up on the fly, things change,
Right.
information comes up. And that's where our relationship to work with that chairperson to make
Right.
changes. Now, some committees have strict timelines. There's strict statutes where certain bills have to be considered before a certain
Yeah, but
date.
this is not. Yeah, I mean, I
That
understand what
committee you just showed me, it's got a strict date. It's got to do pass
just-
bills by the
just
10th
for- just for
legislative
like-
day. Yeah.
set of bills. But I guess it disturbs me when you take away opportunities for people to be able to make things better. Because amendments are not, committee amendments are not to destroy the bills, right? Because you can come out here and strip the committee amendment right off. It's to make it better. But the thing that disturbs me too about these letters state that the leadership committee is here to support you, right? And it says that the chair, the vice chair, and it lists the ranking minority member. I guarantee you that on all of these letters that list these ranking minority members, they were not consulted about being on the leadership team to remove the opportunity for people to be able to bring amendments in committee. But yet they're listed in here as if this is something that they agree with. And I'm almost sure they don't agree with it, because a lot of us agree the same on a lot of these issues.
Gentlemen,
Thank you,
time
Mr.
is
Speaker.
up. We have a message from the Senate. The clerk will now call the message from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has amended as therein shown, and as amended has passed the following House bill and returned same herewith to the House of Representatives. House Bill number 1 by Representative Reynolds.
Chair recognizes Chairman Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we received 2 amendments, one in committee in the Senate, and then a second one today on the floor of the Senate. The first amendment, everyone should have got that by email with a brief explanation, and I'll certainly go over it again this morning. Then the second amendment, as I said, the copy is up here, and I'll go through that as well. So, Mr. Speaker, you may go ahead and give a brief on the amendments now.
Yes, sir.
So the First Amendment that I'd sent you by email, members, it basically split the 200 million subsection under stormwater, or correction, the sewer, water, and clean water projects. And the second tranche of that was split into two 100 million. Stormwater is allowable to apply for in both the second and the third tranche of that money now. In the first tranche of the money, there is no matching funds required. In the second, you can have matching funds, and that would be graded accordingly. And in the third tranche of money, the third 100 million, there is an option for a 35% match. And of course, that's taking care of probably your larger growth areas, but is not specific to stormwater. But it can be applied through the application process. And AUDM will do as they continue to do. It's a grade process once those applications are filed. On the Second Amendment that came on the floor of the Senate today, it's basically saying that if ADM denies or attempts to deny an application for a technical error, the amendment requires them to work with that agency to correct that area. If they then still have to deny that application, then that has to be in writing. Now, I will tell you through the language in our 2022 that set up the Joint Oversight Committee, a lot of that language is already in there, and I'll tell you firsthand that process is in play, because I know we had an issue with the Ardmore sewer system, and there was concerns about the city was having issues about the application process. And at the last Oversight Commission meeting in 2022, I made comments to the ADM director that we have more resources. We do need to help these small cities get these applications right and try to get funding into their cities. So, Mr. Speaker, I consider both amendments friendly and would ask to concur with the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got a couple of lights on. First, Chair recognizes Representative Rogers from Jefferson County.
I've just been talking to Mr. Bracy, and that's been my concern. His concern he brought up is my concern all along. I'm not faulting you for it. I don't know, but for some reason, you are denying us our right to represent our constituents, based on the way it's written. Well, in fact, if you're gonna bring something out of already engrossed with rules with a substitute, so to speak, how can I, if I can't come on this floor and make a change? Oh, I'm not representing my people, and that's all Mr. Bracy is saying, and I agree with 1,000% what he's saying, and that's gonna put a problem on for everybody in the minority. You put us down as a whatever it is, some kind of minority person, regular minority. But if you can't make a change in committee that I'm not on, I'm looking at the chair too. If I'm not on that committee, and like a lot of us on our committee, and it comes out of that committee already ready to go with a substitute, all that kind of stuff, then we can't make any changes. You deny me right to represent my people I represent in Jefferson County, or Alabama, whoever they want to make a change. So it ought to be some kind of way we can alleviate that or make it a little bit better, Mr. Speaker, where at least give us a chance to make an amendment on the floor to make it work. And I can not have to go through committee, because if I'm not on the committee, I don't care if you got two black folks on there as ranking minority, it's not but three of them on the committee. It's not but three. It's not but three, at the most, two or three minority folks on any committee in this house. And they had a total disadvantage of 15. And then you bring a bill on the floor that's already ready to go, fly out of there. And when you tell us we can't make the changes on the floor, well, we behind the 8-ball. I was just talking to Bracy a minute ago, and we talked about it, and we all gonna be concerned about it in the legislature this session. If we don't go in there and change that rule, We're gonna have a lot of problems here passing it. I mean, y'all gonna run over us finally. And you call for cloture. Y'all might well go to all the cloture boys ready to find. The chairman can't find a cloture anymore. Because in fact, we're gonna have to fight everything y'all bring out because we haven't had a participation in it. We have no choice. I'm speaking for the entire, I think I'm speaking for the entire black caucus. I don't mean Republicans, because y'all got a train running, they're gonna run over us. And we can't do is stand there and holler. And so we got to holler. So I thought that we did fight. But we had no chance when you tie my hands behind my back and tell me we're gonna raise 100 yards, but my hands tied behind my back, so my feet tied behind. I got to hop, and you sprinting. So therefore, all we asking for is a fair shot at making the bills better once they hit the floor. But if we're handicapped before we hit the floor, how can we make that change? Tell me how we do that. I'm asking you for how do we do that?
You want me to respond to the rules?
Yeah. I'm actually responding to the rule, because that's what we gonna have to fight about.
I haven't seen the letter, Mr. Rogers.
Hey, it's not about the rules, Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Rogers, we got to stay germane to this bill, and the rules are not germane to this bill.
But his bill is the same thing what Mr. Brace was talking about. It's the same meeting he was addressing.
No, sir, it's not. Let's stay on the bill.
All right, the bill further said, if I don't like this bill, and you bring it out like it is, can I now offer me an amendment on this bill and change it?
Well, under the rules, you could offer amendment, but certainly I have retained the right to table it.
Yeah, I know, but I can offer. Hey, all right, I'm not on your committee, so therefore I wasn't able to offer the amendment in committee. But when y'all start bringing bills out already, basically almost engrossed, then offer a meal on the floor, it means nothing. I'm gonna get tabled down every time. I'm gonna get no every, because you already got the engrossed part basically, because you said you want a substitute. See what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying, right? Now, if you're on my side, if you were in my position, you'll be saying the same thing. Like Mr. Brace was saying, we're behind the inevitable 8-ball right now. The whole, I want to say black caucus or whatever you want to call it, a chartreuse caucus, a pink caucus, a blue caucus, whatever you try to call it. We're now behind the proverbial 8-ball, even on this bill. I want to bring this bill because the same thing happened on this bill, per se. See, so now if you are where I am, you'll be voicing the same concern I'm voicing. And so I don't know how you're going to answer the question. I don't know. Hey, I'm sit down with the clerk, if you don't mind, Mr. Speaker, and I'll sit down with you and try to find some way to give us some kind of a help, alleviation. That's all I'm asking. That's all Brace is asking. Give us a fair shot, a fair chance. That's all we ask. I'll sit down with you, Mr. Clerk, after we get through. I said I would do that. Try to find a way we can find a middle ground where we can work on this. That's all I'm saying. That's okay? All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're going to sit down and try to work this out. I hope y'all give us a chance to work it out. We want to. I want to. Ms. Moore want to. All of us want to. We met on. We really want to. We really want to work it out where we want to get adversarial for a session start. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. I know Chairman Lovren's office is always open, and I'm sure he'd be glad to have that conversation with you.
Okay, I want to voice our concern before once the ball gets rolling too fast, we can't catch up with it.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to offer our concern right now. It take a step. I'm not on the committee. I can't. As a matter of fact, if I was, I'd be out. I voted 12-3. Where it go? I'm behind the 8-ball. It's not your fault. It's our fault. We are, but we got to get more folks in think like we think. Man, that's what we got to do. But right now, since we're here, we want to have a fair shot at being effective. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll sit down with you too, if you don't mind. I'll talk to Kirk. I'll talk to everybody who put this stuff together. We've been talking already. That's why I'm voicing concern. We'll sit down. I'm willing to do that. All right, thank you. That's all I want to do. Get a fair shot at it.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
The two gentlemen before me certainly has expressed some concerns that I have as well. Now, I have the amendment that was placed up here. The other amendment that dealt with, could you take me to exactly where that amendment is on the bill in terms of the location? The one that dealt with the stormwaters? I understand you sent that last night, but I didn't read that.
No, we just got that today. That was a bill that was brought to the floor by Senator Smitherman just before it was transmitted to
That's
the
all.
House.
Well, I have that. I'm
Okay.
talking about one, you mentioned that
The one that I sent you?
you said you sent something out, which I didn't see it because I didn't look at my computer last night. So could you take me to where that is? And
Just a moment, because that was engrossed, so let me get a copy and I'll take you to that section. But let me generally answer your question as we're trying to get a copy of the exact page and line item. So as you know, the entire 395 million for the wastewater and clean water projects, the first $195 million it requires no match whatsoever. The second tranche and
so
that next.
I'm going to stop you there. So that's already in what we received, right?
Well,
The bill.
well, it is, but now I'm fixing to get to the section where they divided the 200 million. So in the second tranche of monies where it says up to 200 million, providing as matching grants to public water and sewer systems, that amendment that I sent you divides that into
Hold
two.
up, tell me. So remember, when I do this, I'm looking at where it's located on the bill.
Okay.
So up to 200 million, which?
Okay, go to page 4,
Thank you.
line 109. And
Okay.
continue through page
Okay.
112.
All right, okay.
On page 5 is where as I just read, up to 100 million to be provided as matching grants for investments in water and sewer infrastructure, projects allowable under 31 CFR. So that 30,
Stop right there. So the up to 500 is being placed at the end of purpose at the end on line 121.
on page 5 at the end of line 113 is where that sentence begins.
Okay. Project shall be awarded based on ranking system.
And if I can point out something important here, where it says under 31 CFR, that's important because that's where they bring in the stormwater language.
Mr. Speaker, I can't hear. Mr. Speaker, I can't hear. Thank you. So what I'm trying to do is to find out where this amendment from the Senate floor has been placed. So when I read it, it will make sense to me. Understand?
Okay, so now you're back on the one that came on the floor today? You just asked me about
Right, I'm asking you what, from the Senate side,
okay.
where
yes,
that
ma'am.
amendment
The one that
is.
brought in the committee.
Right.
So that's the one we're going through now. And I
Oh,
just
wait.
gave you that on
Okay.
page 5 at line 113.
And at the end on page 5, line 113, so projects shall be awarded based on a ranking system established by the department. I'm trying to see where that information that you're reading is inserted.
Yeah, that's that on the line I just told you. And then once your next line after CFR, go to page 5 after line 121.
I'm not clear on where you are from line 113. That's where my problem is. I'm missing something.
Let me find it for you, Ms. Hall, and then can I step over to you and just
Sure.
show it to you?
And so while you're looking for it, this ties back to much of what the two gentlemen before me was talking about. Not that it applies to this bill, but I'm just saying this what would be created, that same type of process, same type of oh. All right. So the established. Okay. But see, that's what I was trying to see. Where does it, see, this is what we have here. Established by the environmental management, include factor, department. Well, that's the same thing that we already had. And then okay, this is what I need right here. All right, this is what I need. Thank you. So when I look on page 5 after line 113, up to the project shall be awarded at the beginning of the line. So the project, before we start project, up to 100 million will be provided as a matching grant. That's the first one. And then on the line 2121.
Right, Ms. Hall, just for clarification, on the 195 million, there's no match required. The match comes into play on the first 100 million of the split that the amendment does.
How he walk in the middle of us talking?
But I think that's important because a lot of people are concerned about the matching money. So the first 195 million, no match. Second 100 million, which is different than the language. That's what the amendment separates.
That's a 100 million.
But
That's the matching grant money.
it can be, but not required.
So this says up to 100 million to be provided as a matching grant for investment in water, sewer, infrastructure project allowable. Okay, okay. Then the next split.
The final one, again, stormwater is allowable to file for an application. And then it also allows if a city wants to do a 35% match. And it's simply saying that would be graded accordingly. Now, it doesn't mean ADM may have a clean water project that they grade out higher than somebody doing a 35% match. But it does put that option on the table for growth areas.
Right. Okay. I got it. So I am up. So the last match is for that award based on the ranking system established. All right. All right. I think I'm clear. So ADM still does have its role in it in terms of determining all of those factors, and also must or shall provide assistance to those areas if they don't have the
match.
tropical
Yes, ma'am.
things in order.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm clear. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Ringo, Representative McCampbell. While Representative is on his way down here, I'd like to recognize Marshall County leadership, the guests are Representative Colvin and Kitchen. Let's give them a big hand for being here with us today. Also, the Central Alabama Youth Tour, Otaga, Chillicothe, and Elmore counties. We would like to recognize them today. Members Bledsoe, Starnes, Lawrence, Smith, Robbins, Stubbs, and Ingram. Thank y'all for being with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
All right. I looked at this and I have the corresponding amendment, and when I understand where it falls in there, but as I think about the wastewater, the drain water, storm water, I agree that we need to do something about it. I'm just not sure that this tranche of money is the best place to do that. And I say that because we have other federal programs when it comes to the green money, they're out there. And when you're having storm issues and things of that nature, you can apply for that money, as a city or anybody that's having those kind of issues. And it's a tiered match system. So we don't have, you can even get up to 100% of your project funded if it falls into that tier. I think this money was sent basically for rural areas. And I'm not just talking about the Black Belt. I'm talking about all over this state. I'm talking about all these rural counties that are actually dealing with having water to drink, real clean water that they can drink. I have a county over in my area where they are now having to buy their drinking water. Well, for the last few years, their contract read $8,000 a month. Once the city that was supplying their clean drinking water realized they had them over the barrel, now they are putting it at $41,000 a month. These systems don't have that kind of funding. So I think it is very incumbent upon us that we don't lose sight of what this funding is for, because there is money out there for storm water mitigation. There is money out there that the federal government, as I say, will do it up to the different tiers. So those of us in the rural area, yeah, I agree with it, because we had it to happen right here in Montgomery in 2008. I lost a car because of storm water backing up right here at the State House. I understand we've had mitigation problems with mold and mildew because of that backup right here at the State House. But as I say, I still think it's one of those things where we need to look at what this tranche of money is for. Now, with that in mind, I see the 100,000. Can you explain, so people, give us a example, if you can give us one, where that 100,000 would probably be where the funding or the granting of it, would that granting go ahead of the wastewater procedure?
Well, that's 100 million, not 100,000.
Okay, all right.
Don't cut me.
I need some more glasses.
No, you're exactly right with your comments, and not speaking on behalf of ADEM, but I will tell you, just because I've just really tried to dive into the process so that I understood it from a layman's standpoint, is that grading process. I would think a clean water project would be graded higher than a stormwater project. I think that's what you want to hear.
That's what I need people to hear.
Yeah, and I think that's where the leadership and those that have worked on this bill for so long came from, is we were really, as long as we have people in Alabama that didn't have clean drinking water, we wanted to put as much money as we could toward those areas. But this wording does not restrict ADEM's ability to grade out a clean water project.
Now, the other issue, though, is we have an oversight committee, do we not? That is to be over this ARPA funding.
I think I put you on that oversight commission.
Oh, you did put me on
You're
it?
on there. I think you're on there.
Well, I hope you did, because I plan on calling ADM to the table and wanting to see their grading processes, because if we pass stuff and then we lose sight of it, and it gets caught up in the bureaucracy of the state. And so I don't want this to get lost in that bureaucracy where we are allowing the agencies to just make, wholesale decisions when we have an intent for this funding. So as I say, I hope I am on that one. If I'm not, Mr. Speaker, I do think I want to be on that one. But
Well, the process works. We've met, I know, at least 3 times since 2022. We have asked the tough questions, even related to this amendment. As I said, I've looked at them and said, I think we do need to help small cities be successful in the grant process.
Okay.
And it's a very open process. There's a written report that comes from that. And I think, once you dive into it more, you'll see that this body continues to have oversight well after we pass this bill today.
okay. And the last one is, I think, a technical amendment on the Smitherman amendment. So if you look at it, where on the next to the last, well, if you read it, it reads this way. Any state agency administering a grant program for funds appropriated by this act shall not deny a timely submitted application based on a technical deficiency without first offering to assist the applicant correct.
Yeah.
You've got to put something else in there. You don't have a conjunction.
Well, I listened to the language up there this morning, and he just simply said, help the city correct the technical aspects of the application process.
I understand. But grammatically, you don't have the connecting conjunction in there.
Okay, so I'm told by the attorney that LSA can fix that.
LSA
Before-
can fix
yeah,
that
just in the
before,
text. Right.
before it goes?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Before it's codified.
before it's
Yep.
codified.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you see what I'm saying? Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that was pointed out, and
Well, I personally think it's right. I mean, it's simply saying assist the applicant correct the
assist
deficiency.
the
Yeah, correct the
applicant
deficiency.
correct deficient.
We'll let the smart technical
You've got
people.
to, yeah, it's going to take some grammatical correcting there.
Well, I think we
That'll
know the
take
intent.
grammatical correct.
We're good.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Jones.
Yeah, that's going to take some grammatical
Okay.
It's not, I understand the
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition.
trying to convey, but it will take that grammatical.
Yes, sir.
My question really centers around the $100 million and the part that has a 35% match.
Yes, sir.
What is the intent of that amendment?
Well, let's be honest. This is the Senator Elliott amendment that's been talked about a lot for the last week or two. It's about an effort to place an emphasis on growing areas that could afford a 35% match versus some areas that couldn't. And I think the bill gives a good option for that first 195 million not to have any match at all, and then you go into the second 2 sections of 100 million each. That it's an option. If you can do a matching fund, then that grades out accordingly. If you can't do one, you can still file the application. It's still graded out. But if a city can do 35%, then again that's graded accordingly.
if they can do 35%, they probably don't need the grant. The fact of the matter is, what it does, without saying so, it actually makes it impossible for a number of cities to participate. I mean, and you.
But it's not a requirement, Mayor. It's not a requirement.
So whose subjective call is that when somebody has a big 35%?
Well, it's ADM. It's ADM grading out that process. But I think maybe go back to my earlier comment about a clean water project. You know, that may override somebody that can do 35%. But I guess if I'm sitting in ADM's chair and you've got a city that can do 35%, yeah, has been said at that microphone several times, it makes the money go further. So I think they certainly can take that and evaluate it.
I haven't had those kind of experiences, but I think what my concern is, the 35% actually limits the ability to a number of areas to participate. It
Yes.
doesn't for large metropolitan areas, it really doesn't for that. But 35% in some areas might be half their budget, the whole budget for the whole entire city. So my concern is this just subjective on ADM's part, who they require to do this and who they don't require?
Well, it's a point process. I mean, you've got people that are grading these projects out. And again, I go back, it's not a requirement. In that $100 million, that is not a requirement. It's just available to increase that matching fund. And then we'll see how it is. I mean, this may be an area that we have to evaluate as an oversight commission. And if it's not all expended, then we'll have to move that money.
Well, I wish I had a stack of those letters I got to say you missed it by 2 points. I mean, everybody who's not successful missed it by about 2 points.
Yes, sir.
But I'm just concerned with that is a serious issue in a lot of different areas. Some are small municipalities, some are very large municipalities or counties. And I think the smaller ones will probably have more of a need than larger ones, even though I've never really operated a government in a small municipality, but I can imagine what infrastructure cost is in those areas. And this is really supposed to be to allow them to have access to money that they would not have, and it's a one-time shot for everybody. So I'm really concerned about that, and I was more concerned about what the original intent of the amendment was. I think you kind of explained to me what some of it was, but I just think that as we do this, we have to be concerned about the effects rather than the intent of our actions. The effects of our actions sometimes don't have any relationship to the intent, and that concerns me, and that's really the question I had for you about this particular legislation. I think you understand what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir, I do.
But we are at the point here, I think it was mentioned during all of our discussions about this money, that stormwater should be an eligible portion of what money was spent. And we chose not to do that at the House, and at the Senate, they insisted on it. So and I agree that stormwater should be a part, but certainly, as you said, drinking water and some others have a higher priority. But I just don't want to see us do that subjectively rather than based on need in areas. So
Yes,
that's real concern I have about it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore. While she's on her way down here, we want to recognize Coffee County Leadership Group. They're here today. Let's give them a big hand. They're you guys, thank y'all so much. Guests are Representative Rhett Marcus, Matthew Hammett, Cynthia Ullman. I didn't know you had a special. Okay. And Chris Sales. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to add something, maybe a solution to what our concerns are. You have far too many small, poor cities. And it's unfortunate the other side of the aisle don't see this. In those small cities, when you look at the people who might manage to finance, you look at the mayor, they might not necessarily understand the wording on how these funds ought to be used. And if you don't have matching funds, there are other options you could go to in order to do your project. So what I'm asking to add to what they're saying, because there might just be some miscommunication or no communications on the fine details, we've got to put a statement either in the bill or when they come up to the point that the finance are putting in place how the funds ought to be used. I'm
Well,
giving you
I
time to
think-
look through the paper. I ain't stopped talking.
Well-
I just want to know if you could multitask.
Well, I was actually, so I'll answer your question. I was going to the
Okay.
section you and I talked about because I wanted to make
Right.
sure I had that information for
No,
you.
but-
But I think,
No, listen at this part. Listen at this part. What I'm saying, for those small cities, and maybe for some of the larger, the person managing finance might not can interpret properly the language that the state and the federal government is giving them. But if we can make a clear statement that if you do not have this 35% matching monies, or whatever matching monies you might need, there are some options for you to continue to do your project. If they don't know that, they might cancel their project. Then in turn, those are some of the dollars that are going to be reappropriated because those areas didn't know that they had options, that there's money, that a pot that we even put it with ADM that they could request for matching dollars. We also had a pot in the general fund budget. I don't know if that's the same pot that we did last year in preparation of matching funds, that's another avenue. But however many other options they could take to get their projects done without canceling the project and the committee reappropriating those funds, I think we need to give them that information up front so that they don't think that they're hopeless. I don't have the matching funds. I can't do that because it's time out in the state of Alabama. I said, when I look at some of the poorest areas in the state, I look at that northwestern area, you got some poverty that's worse than what the poverty is in the Black Belt. Then you can look at that southeastern part of the state. The poverty there is worse than other parts of the state. But we got to do something to give the proper instructions to these areas that have been in a hopeless situation all these years, as much information as we could give them to tell them where their options are if they don't have matching dollars. So,
you may answer
Yeah.
that? Okay, so I think you're right, and I think we capture that in the MOA between the executive office and the fiscal office, and they get that intent right there. And then it's my understanding once ADM's ready or ADECA, they do notify every agency with the guidelines and the specifications for that applicable money. So I think
Yeah,
I
but
think
the
we're doing
point-
exactly what you're saying.
no, you're not. What I'm saying, when that language come down to them, their interpretation might be slightly off. But you could clarify that if it seems like the holdup that I understand from most areas that have not proceeded with projects, they did not understand that they had some other options. They could appeal to ADM, they could appeal to the general fund, however they are mentioning it, but there are pots of money where they could get their matching money from. We have got to clarify that. The memorandum of understanding that's coming down, some of that language everybody don't understand, but we can have a simple clarification. If you just don't have your matching money, we could put a note. If you don't have your matching money, these are some other areas you can make application to get those dollars so that we can ensure you can do your project and be successful. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the reoccurring, you're exactly right. And the reoccurring money that we do out of the general fund,
Yeah.
I say the state of Alabama's done a good job making sure there's enough state funding in there
Yeah.
to draw down the federal dollars.
That's right.
That's right.
But I've heard from small areas, they didn't understand that it was there. They read all that fancy language, but there was no note at the bottom to say if you don't meet all of this, then you need to contact these agencies. If you don't understand this as a way to get your project done, contact these two agencies, and they will give you more options as to what you could do. And I think, and we need to do that more if we're talking about growing Alabama, because we got too many counties where we don't recruit businesses to, and we don't recruit them because they don't have the proper infrastructure for us to recruit a major business to those counties. So then those counties become less and less dependent upon state dollars because they can capture taxes from companies that relocate in those counties. So everything we do ought to be looked at as a job and business opportunity for all 67 counties in the state of Alabama. That's all I'm saying. If we could just put that little note there to help them out, all that fancy language. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the opportunity to address colleague as it relates to this bill and also our rural counties. I represent 6 rural counties, and an amendment that would have been efficient and to those counties that relates to the water runoff, storm, has been taken out, I was told. And then there's a 35% match for rural counties to apply for these funding. Neither county that I represent probably is able to have that matching funding. And I'm concerned about that. And I'm also concerned about us not allowing our poor counties to be a part of the growth in this state. Now, there are more rural counties than urban. Alabama is mostly rural, but the 4 big cities is incorporating the entire amount of these fundings, and we can't compete.
And we're not requiring a 30-35% match
But
from those counties.
what do we need to do to get ADM to look at us in a different manner when it comes to our access to water? My colleague came down early. He didn't call the name of the county, but I represent that city, that town, who is charging the water system of Wilcox County from $8,000 to $40,000 a month for water. And when the system's all messed, when the water can't even get there because there are so many broken lines. So how do we manage not to cooperate them in this process? I'm asking for. Maybe you can't answer that, but
I think we've done a good job doing that. That first $195 million absolutely requires no match. So I think we are. I think they are in mind when we're doing this.
So we are looking at the first 195 million of the 200.
With no match, and then it's an option on the next 100 million.
The options on the next 100 million. Well, it's 195 million. There's not one, but was not but 200 million. Where's the rest of this money coming from?
Yeah, well, it's all out of that original tranche of money, which was the total of 395 million for water and sewer projects. All that amendment did was separate that into 2 pots to allow that 35% as an option, and I mean, it works. We'll see how the grading process goes and see how many cities step up and take that option. And again, from an administrative standpoint, this may be an area we have to go back and look at and and the Oversight Commission being involved in it, and then we may move some money.
Well, we're gonna depend on you because, my confidence is in your process and in your honesty. And I'm not going to be long the time because I know basketball is on a lot of people's mind. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thanks, sir.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The question for the body is concurrence with Senate Bill HB 1. All those in favor will vote aye. All those opposed, no. The clerk will unlock the machines. Members will vote. All the members voted. 94 ayes, 0 nays, 6 abstentions. The bill is passed. Congratulations, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And a thank you to Kirk and the fiscal office and Dustin, the work you've done. Appreciate your support. Yep. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee. Chairman Levin.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
Clerk, see report.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 5th legislative day and finds the same to be correct. Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length be dispensed with.
Hearing no objections, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle, for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I move the House stand in adjournment sine die.
All in favor say aye. We are sine die. Good job, guys.